All right, my friends, it's time once more to talk about healing. So, the inflammation in my leg is still very bad. My right knee's a little bit better, but I'm thinking ahead now to next spring when I'm going to be working for the same company I was working for last summer. And you're pretty much wearing shorts the whole time. And towards the end of that season, that's when my leg, which I've shown on this channel before, that's when it was getting really bad. But it's only gotten worse over the winter, and I can cover it up when it's cold because I can wear leggings, thermal leggings under my shorts when I'm cycling or whatever. But I'm going to be back in this job, I'm going to be wearing shorts, and that's kind of my deadline. I've got to get this under control, and I've just got to do it because it's an illness and you have to heal it. And generally speaking, my family, all my family members, we've always been fairly of good health, right? With the notable exception of perhaps my uncle has asthma, which is an autoimmune condition. I've had the psoriasis for a few years now. That's an autoimmune condition. And more recently, very recently, my father has had some kind of inflammation in his joints, and he's lost all of his strength as a result of this, and there's swelling and a bit of redness, I believe. And this is just the body's natural immune system response to something. We don't know what it is in any of these conditions. So with psoriasis, there's believed to be a link to something in the gut, and there's always a mental and emotional component to chronic illness as far as I'm concerned. But I was just saying to my dad just now that in my case, the idea of taking drugs, whether systemic or topical, is absolutely out of the question. I refuse point blank to do it because I nearly healed this skin condition in 2015 and going on into 2016 just through diet and lifestyle changes alone, and just through, I think self-acceptance has a big part to play in it. But when it comes to my dad, he's got some kind of test coming up, a scan of some sort, an ultrasound scan or something, and he has to come off his medication for an entire week. He's been off for maybe 2 or 3 days now, and his feet and his hands have swollen up. They're like, getting like fat balloons. You often see that, people with swelling in their joints like that. And he's lost all his strength. He can barely lift a dining room chair up to chest height and carry it into the other room. And this is what he was like when he first started experiencing this. And then he went on these systemic anti-inflammatories, right, which is some kind of, I guess it's a pill. And then he wasn't back to his old self, but he was a lot better. And it's only because he's come off that for the scan that he's getting bad again. But it's not ideal. I'm sure it's horrible as a parent to see your child, whether they're a little boy or girl, or they're a grown man, but still your offspring. I'm sure that's horrible to see them suffering, but it's horrible to see your parents suffering as well. Do you know what I mean? I remember when I was a young lad, I don't know what age we started playing rugby with Dad, but it was up until the age of 17. But I remember Dad was coaching my year group for many years, and it was hilarious. He would demonstrate to us how to run these plays, how to break through the opposition. But we were teenage boys, and he was like a 40-year-old grown man. He weighed like as much as 2 or 3 of us combined, and he'd smash through us with the ball and go, there you go, that's how it's done. That's the Dad I remember, super strong, right? And another thought this brings up for me is that Julie and I talk a lot about the future and the fact that we both want to have children in the not too distant future. And I'm thinking, I don't want my kids to grow up with a dad who's constantly ill. I don't want to set that example for them, that illness is normality. Even that chronic illness, that is illness that doesn't go away, even that thing exists, that shouldn't be in a child's consciousness if we can at all help it. I don't want to set that example for them. When I was a kid, when I was growing up, I believed that anything that went wrong with me, anytime I didn't feel well, I could just go, and sometimes it would just be, Mum would produce some kind of remedy or something, and I would feel better later that day probably. And if it was something more severe, you could go to the doctor. They'd just write you a note you'd go to the chemist with mum, she'd get something, and you'd be better in a few days or a few weeks at most. And that was my understanding. I believed in that. Allopathic medicine, it was the truth, it worked. And that changed with psoriasis, because it came and I went to the doctor and I was thinking, you know, when they told me for the first time, this is a condition for life, this isn't going away, I was just like, yeah, right, okay, not in this body, love. That's what I thought. I didn't say that to the doctor, obviously, but that's what I was thinking. And, you know, I found out the hard way. Within a year, I was fucked. I was taking all the medication they were giving me, but I was absolutely ruined. And that's when I decided to start taking control of my life and changing things. And the healing journey began, and I learned the truth. So, you know, just been talking to Dad now and comparing, and I'm telling him there's no way I'm going to take drugs for this. I know I can sort this out, and I am sorting it out, and I believe it's part of the process, it's part of the story, it's part of the journey. But I hate to see him that way, and I hope that he can fix it through allopathic means. I hope that he can, because he's not wired up like me, okay? He watches TV, he watches movies, he watches the news, he votes, he's into politics and all that kind of stuff. So he's very unlikely, even being married to a woman like my mum who's into Reiki and yoga, he's very unlikely to develop the kind of mentality that I have to take it upon ourselves to try and dig into the mind and fight the parasites and figure all this stuff out. But yeah, I do think about my kids, and that is a pretty strong motivation. Working in shorts in the spring, that's a pretty strong motivation. But I don't actually mind the conversations that come up when people say, "What's that on your leg?" Because it helps. I can teach and I can learn in a situation like that. And so I just came out here with this little table I'm sat on now, and I just looked up at the stars, and I know there's something out there. I know that this isn't happening by accident, and I can feel that when I sit here and when I look at the stars, or I sit here with my eyes closed, just with my hands open, and I'm just like, not demanding, but just waiting to be shown, waiting to have it revealed to me. You know, what do I do? And I'm sat here and I'm thinking, you can agonize over this stuff. You can think, oh no, maybe I need to cut grains out. Maybe I need to, I don't know, just too many things to agonize over, too many details. And it's not about that. It's about the bigger picture, I think. So it does help me to have discipline. It does help me to set dietary rules and to make myself get up early and to make myself sit and contemplate. You might call it praying, you might call it meditating. You know, to get out on my bike like I did earlier today. First time I've been for a bike ride that was purely driven by just pleasure and the joy of riding, the joy of being outdoors. And as I sat here, I thought of a petit lut, which is a small otter. And this is like a nickname that my girlfriend and I have for each other. We call each other ma petite lut, my little otter. And, you know, I think of a simple creature which has no concept of what's going on outside of its level of awareness. And let's say, for whatever reason, this otter lives in a zoo or something, or an otter sanctuary, and it's reliant on human beings to come every day and give it fish so it can eat. And all it cares to sustain itself, all it cares about is just getting that fish. And if it was deprived of that fish for any amount of time, it's helpless, basically. And that's kind of how I feel when I'm considering this universe that I'm in. I'm with the disease that is. I kind of feel helpless and powerless. I need something to come from outside and give me the sustenance that I need. That's what I was thinking when I was sat here with my hands open, my palms upturned, and I was thinking of you see these pictures of otters praying. If you've never seen that, I'll show you what they look like now. These are otters praying to God, that they look to me like they're just so grateful that they got to eat that day. Yeah, it's a mad one, but that's what I thought, and it made me want to grab the camera and talk to it and just try to outline a little bit of what I'm feeling at the moment. But yeah, we are going to do this, and I'm going to show it on this channel. I'm going to show you how I do it and what the results are, and this is setting the intention, I guess. That's what I'm doing right here. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned to this frequency.